For those of you who didn't hear me before, this is Gaby with Tigrinlish. Sorry if you hear the fan in the background. I am melting because it is over close to 100 degrees Fahrenheit here in Frankfurt, Germany, and around 33 degrees centigrade if you're from other parts of the world. We're getting into the ground rules here and the infinitive tip. So as I said before, we want this to be a safe space for everyone. If you'd like to contribute a comment or a question, please feel free, as Muh-khwan did, to put your comments down below. First tip with the infinitive here, when we're talking about infinitives, verbs that have had nothing done to them in Tigrinya, we put a m in front of the verb, just like in English how we do to be, to do, to go, for example. So now we're getting up to our first 3 minutes, which means it's time to move on to our next section, talking about the I, he, she, you. As you can see here, this is the first, second, and third person. I will explain what that is as we go. So if we're talking about the first person, we have I am ... in English, ane ... Ale-khu. Be careful you say the hu and not the k, because that will make it a little bit harder to understand. And you might have also noticed that the rest of the sentence is at the end in English versus in the middle in Tigrinya. The word order for a sentence is very different. In English, we go subject, verb, object, but in Tigrinya, it's subject, object, verb. Sometimes you can even leave the subject off, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But moving on to the second person, that would be in a conversation, the person that you are talking to, the second person in the conversation. In Tigrinya, that's split into masculine and feminine. So we have nisha, Ale-kha, nishi, Ale-khi. As you can see, I put the spellings down here in Tigrinya as well. And moving on to he, she, it is also split into masculine and feminine, but I'm not going to go that far right now because it will just confuse you. So we're just going to focus on he and she right now. So that's nisu, alo, nisa, ala. As we said, this is talking about physically being present somewhere. So keep that in mind because that will come up in the different exercises that we're going to do as practice. Another thing that might come up if you're saying this in front of a family member is they might say aloha instead of Ale-kha. And the reason for that is actually detailed in these 2 grammar books. This one is from the 90s and this one is from the 2010s. Now, in that time, there was a difference made for, I guess, literacy of how it was written. Some people still, even though it's written Ale-kha, actually still say aloha. So both of them are correct. It's just a spelling difference and how the language has changed over time. So we still have about 40 seconds left. I'm just going to go through and say all of these one more time so you can hear me saying it. And don't worry if you haven't gotten it, this will be recorded. And I also have a deck where you can hear this information another time. Ane, Ale-khu. Nisha, Ale-kha. Nishi, Ale-khi. Nisu, alo. Nisa, ala. All right, take the next 20 seconds to take a screenshot if you like, or a photo before we move on to the next thing, which will be examples of when to use each to be, including the one we had in our first verb prepare workshop a couple weeks ago. All right, moving on. This is rapid fire. So we have the 2 to be's in Tigrinya. There are 2, Muh-khwan and Muh-huh-law. For Muh-khwan, it's ane, iye. Muh-huh-law, ane, Ale-khu. Just keep that in mind, iye, Ale-khu. If you're thinking, all right, I'm a little bit confused, let's look at some examples of when to use each. In English, we just say I am, and it's all the same. But as we're talking about here in Tigrinya, depending on the situation, you have to use something else. So let's go through each of these one at a time. Just keep it in your mind. I am cute. Yes, I am, but that's not the point. I am at work. I am okay. In Tigrinya, cute is 2 different words, masculine and feminine, jibit and jibeti. And again, that word order, cute, I am. We have here, absarah, at work. At work, I am. And okay, tahan, okay, I am. So take the next 30 seconds or so to think about, is it iye or Ale-khu. How did you do? Let's read the full sentences now. جبرتي إيه أبصرة Ale-khu. دهنية. If you're still feeling a bit confused, we're going to talk about a bit more when to use these. So we have here, ane is about permanent traits, like being cute or tall or your nationality. And interestingly, not like many other languages, also about feelings. If you're feeling okay or good, also with iye. Ale-khu is physically being there. And when we get into the present continuous, physically in the process of doing something. So just keep that in your mind. Go ahead and take a screenshot of this if you need to. Okay, and now we are moving on to the question section. We have about 3 minutes for questions, so feel free to put in any questions that you might have so far into the chat. One of those major questions that we usually get a lot while we're waiting for questions from the audience is, how much of this should I try to learn from the beginning? As I'll mention again at the end of this session, I usually try to suggest to my students that they learn the conjugation for I and for you at the beginning, because most simple conversations will just be you and one other person. Then when you feel comfortable with those, you can start to level up. But let's talk about these two pictures here. Why are these here? You might have seen me tease this in a video earlier this week, where we talk about the two unfortunate reactions that you get when you're learning Tigrinya and you make a mistake on your learning journey. You either get older people who are judging you, thinking, "Uy, you didn't learn this from your mother," and you get a lot of judgment. Or you get kids who are functionally bilingual, or they know how it's supposed to sound, and they just laugh because your pronunciation or your sentence structure is a little bit, again, in air quotes, off. So it can hurt and it can make questions feel kind of dangerous. You can't change others, but if you know that it's likely to come, you can be prepared for it. So we still have about a minute and 15 seconds if anyone has a question out there. Just going to check the comments, make sure I'm not missing anybody. Okay, so no other questions. Thank you everyone for participating. Let's go ahead and move on to the plurals of this verb. So plural just means you're talking to a group of people now. We still have first, second, and third happening here. First person is the group that you are part of. We. Don't be royal we and a little bit extra, just regular we. We are, again, that sentence structure. All the information in the sentence comes at the end in English, but the verb in Tigrinya comes at the end of the sentence. So that's nihna, alena. Second person, again, split into masculine and feminine. And this is a bit tricky because the masculine form is also used for a mixed group of men and women. The feminine form is just if that group has all women in it. Even if there's one little boy, you have to use the masculine form. So y'all, masculine, feminine are nishatkum, alehum, nishatkun, alehen is the feminine there. They is also split into masculine and feminine, and I had to dig deep to find the feminine of this one in an actual book. Usually they just quote the masculine. So again, same thing with the y'all there. If there's one little boy, you got to use the masculine form. And you see the spelling here. That can also be helpful. If you can read the fidalat, you can see that the ale is at the beginning of all of these. So that would help with your fidalat recognition if you're working on that. Just when you see several fidalat over and over again, it helps you to recognize them as a sight word or a sight letter, just like they do in kindergarten or first grade. Because if you're learning Tigrinya and you're not a native speaker, then you are a first grade level speaker of Tigrinya. You got to start somewhere. So let's read them again one more time in the 45 seconds we have left of this section. Then we're going to go into some slang examples of how to use this. Again, nihna alena, nishatkum alehum, nishatkin alehen, nisathum alo, nisaten aloa. So again, be careful you hear the KH. I know I'm not pronouncing it perfectly because I'm not a native speaker, but make sure it's not a K because that will be the verb to have, which is not what you're trying to say here. You have about 15 seconds to take any screenshots or pictures with your phone if you need to, and we'll move into those slang examples of how to use this. So this is some cultural context. If you can use it this way, you will have leveled up your Tigrinya without having learned any more new words. You often be teased if you zone out in a conversation or you haven't said anything for a while with Ale-khi, Ale-kha, are you still there? And you can respond with Ale-khu, Ale-khu, like I'm still here, don't worry about it. If you're being a little bit cheeky, we talked about this in the first verb repair workshop. You can even add the ane, the pronoun. Like it's a little bit more sassy, like I'm here, ane Ale-khu. And you're like, okay, she's angry. If we're going into a bit more of a sadder feeling, someone asks you how you're doing, and sometimes we say this in English now, not sure where we got it from, but we would say, yeah, I'm here, or we're here. We would say, Ale-khu, if you're just not feeling it that day, or if you're there as a group, Alena. There's a lot of songs in Tigrinya that are like, Alena, we're still here, we're still doing it, we're not giving up. That also comes up with songs with Ale-khi, Ale-kha. Some songs ask like, where are you? Abe Ale-kha, Abe Ale-khi. Go ahead and take some screenshots of these. If you've heard this used in another way, even as a native speaker, if you're watching, please let us know and add it to the comments. Maybe it's a way that I haven't heard of before. Moving on to our next questions section. Hopefully you're feeling a bit more confident about asking questions now. There's no such thing as a dumb question, because for all of us, there was a time when we did not know. And these are the two types of reactions you can get from someone who is supportive of your questions. You might get an older person who gives you like, it's cool that you're even asking that. That's nice, good. They might not say the good, but you will see it on their face, like Baba Berhan in this picture right here. Or you might get 2 thumbs up from your cousin who speaks better Tigrinya than you do, and is like, your pronunciation is getting better, good job. Just like this picture here. So we still have about 2 minutes here in our question section, and I said I was going to get you out of here in 30 minutes. We are running ahead of schedule. So that's pretty cool. Thank you for those who are watching in person and watching the replay after this. And now we'll wrap up here. So I am going to switch gears so that you can see my face a little bit better as I explain some things to you. Talking about study tips. We did talk about this a minute ago towards the beginning, but if you're working on a verb, and this is a verb that you really have not seen before, start with the first person. I know it feels selfish, but focus on me, myself, and I. I and you. That will help you not to get confused, because that's only 3 conjugations. If someone asks you, how is she or how is he, and you don't feel like learning all of that yet, just learn it. Then you can say, yeah, kuro amanyu, like everything is fine. Once you get comfortable at that level, you can move up and then add the he or she, because that's 2 more conjugations that you have to remember. Remember, at the first level, you already have 4. At the second level, you're adding he and she in there. Then you can upgrade to we if you're feeling a bit more comfortable. Y'all comes after that, so that will be the 4th level, because again, that's 2 conjugations for male and female group. And they is usually the hardest for people to remember, so that comes last. Don't worry about that until the end. If you're thinking, I like this lady's style, I want more of what she's doing, then we have some resources for you. At the end of this session, this whole session will be recorded on YouTube, so you can watch it again. If you know you're going to need some help to practice on the go, on our Gumroad, you'll be able to buy the flashcard deck to study this verb on the go. Once our full series is done, we have 10 planned in the present tense of very commonly used verbs for the diaspora survival kit. The verb repair workshop is part of that. Then you'll be able to buy the whole kit of 10 verbs, a flashcard decks to use on the go. If you really want to improve your speaking, and especially speed when speaking, of response time, as you're at events, family events, or talking with family. Then we also offer one-on-one workshops or one-on-one sessions where we focus on what you want to do specifically. We have 4 different tiers for learning the basic vocabulary that the diaspora will need for survival. You can do that with me or without me as part of the Diaspora Survival Kit, which is emails weekly or WhatsApp messages that come in weekly with exercises for you to do. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our second Tigrinya verb repair workshop. Our next one is going to be coming up on July 19th. I'll also make another event here on LinkedIn, July 19th at 8 p.m. Berlin time, 2 p.m. New York City time, 8 p.m. Berlin, 2 p.m. New York City. And that verb will be the third most important verb to have. So we look forward to seeing you there. Thanks for joining, or thanks for watching afterwards.